broadcasting from the band Slight Return, and this is Music 301, a series of guitar lessons, reviews, and tips for Music Player Magazine, brought to you by MusicNoises.com, MI5 Detroit, and Slight Return USA. Today on Music 301, we are going to discuss probably the most confusing concept in all of music, which is the modes. So, when I went to music school and they explained the modes, it was explained as starting a scale, playing a scale, starting on a different note. It is now called a mode of that scale. So if you're playing G major, off the root it was Ionian. If you're playing off the 2, it was now Dorian. Didn't make much sense to me, to be honest with you, because when you're playing a solo, you're not playing a note from a point in the scale up to another point and coming back down to sound very scholastic. This is my interpretation of the modes. I'm not saying I'm right. There are many interpretations of the modes. A lot of people have great explanations to get. It's really a sound in your ear, and it's how you treat the chord in that scale. So in one of our other lessons, we spoke about chord harmonizing the scale, right? So the 1 chord is major, major 7th, 2 chords minor, minor 7th, 3 chords minor, minor 7th, 4 chords major, major 7 sharp 11. The 5 chord is dominant, 6 chords minor, minor 7th, and then minor 7 flat 5, and then back to the 1. So each one of those chords, depending how you treat the chord, is the mode. For example, Ionian, if you play a major chord, G major, you have a choice. If you're playing a major chord without the 7th, it can be a 1 chord, it can be a 4 chord, it can be a 5 chord. So you can treat it as if it's the 1 chord in the key. So if I was playing a G major, I could treat it like it's the 1 chord in G major. If I was playing like it was the 4 chord in the key, so that would be the 4 chord in the key of D, right? So that's where you get that major 7 sharp 11 sound. And if you treat it as a 5 chord, that's that dominant sound. So if you went, it's, the sound we're used to in blues and in old school, a lot of 50s, 60s songs, a lot of them have the dominant 7th chord. I mean, still used today, but more obvious in those older tunes. And so now it'd be considered a 5 chord in the key of C. So it all depends how you treat that chord, what key you're going to put that in, and then also depends what the bass player is playing will dictate the key. So when you're playing a major chord, you have a choice of treating it as a 1 chord in the key, a 4 chord in the key, or a 5 chord in the key. And each one of these has a different sound. Like I just played you, if it's the 5 chord, it's going to have the dominant sound. If it's the 4, it could have the major 7 sharp 11 sound. And if it's the 1 chord, that classic major sound that we're used to. So each key is different. So if I'm a 1 chord, G Ionian is going to be in the key of G. If you're treating it as a 4 chord, it's going to be in the key of D, because now it's a 4 chord in the key of D. If you treat it as a 5 chord, it's now in the key of C. So that's really the concept of the modes. To me, it's a sound that you're getting. Each mode, I'm simplifying right now because there's the whole course taught on these things. Now, if you're playing a minor chord, the 2 chord is minor. So you can treat it as a 2 chord, a 3 chord, or a 6 chord, right? So you're here. And so you have a 2, 3, or 6. But now if you add, also as a minor 7th, so minor and minor 7th can be a 2 chord, a 3 chord, or a 6 chord. That depends what key. If you're playing it as a 2 chord, It's now in the key of G major. A minor 7th is now a 2 chord. Is a 2 chord in the key of G major. If you're treating it as a 3 chord, it has a distinctive note, which is that flat. It has more of that, little more of that Spanish sound because it's got that flat 9 interval in there. Because now you're treating it as a 3 chord in the key of F. Or if you treat that as a 6 chord, so if we're going to take A minor as a 6 chord, now it's actually in the key of C major. A slightly, I guess not quite as bright of a sound. If you're going to say Dorian has a little bit of a happier minor, it's minor, but it's not really like a down kind of minor sound, it's a little bit happier. The Phrygian is a little more Spanish sounding because of the distinctive note of the flat 2. And then Aeolian is a little bit more classical minor sounding. And then locrian is minor 7, flat 5. So if you were playing, that wants to resolve that 1 chord in C major, locrian is going to be a 7 chord in whichever key you're playing. It wants to resolve to that 1. So again, the modes come down to, each mode has a particular sound based on the intervals. So if you're playing the Ionian mode, the distinct notes are the major 3rd and the major 7th. That's what gives it a happy sound. In the Dorian mode, where you're treating it like a 2 chord, and a lot of rock solos, many of the rock guitar solos are in the Dorian mode, where it doesn't feel like a really not really classical sounding and not really dark sounding, a little bit more of a happy sounding because it's got a flat 3rd, but it's also got a major 6th in it. The Phrygian mode has the flat 2 and the flat 3 and a flat 6. So now you're getting a different, a little bit the Spanish sound. The Lydian mode, the distinctive note is the sharp 4 or the sharp 11. That's what gives that mysterious sound. Guys like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani really like that sound. When you hang on that 4 chord, you treat it like a 4 chord in the key, it's a major chord, you get that sharp 11. Mixolydian is that dominant sound that we're all used to, that you've heard in a lot of blues tunes or very common to hear. That kind of sound, or that kind of happy, bluesy kind of sound. Aeolian is more of a classical minor sound because it's got the flat 6 in there. It's got the flat 3, flat 6, flat 7. The locrian mode has a flat 2, the flat 5, and flat 7. That flat 5 it gives it that real dark kind of sound to it. Again, this is a simplified version of the modes, but I know that there are many, many explanations out there that simply, kind of give a broad brush to the modes and say, well, it's just starting on a different note in the keys. Technically, yes, it is, but it's more about how you treat the chord, what you're treating that chord like in a scale. When you hear a major chord, are you treating it as a 1 chord, a 4 chord, or 5 chord? That's going to be the sound of the mode that you choose to play it as. If you play a minor chord, are you going to treat it as a 2, a 3, or a 6 chord? They're all going to have a different sound. Again, major is very happy with the major 3rd, major 7th. Lydian is mysterious with a sharp 11. Mixolydian is that bluesy sound because it's got the flat 7 in it. If you want to go minor, you can treat it as a 2, 3, or 6 chord. If you go Dorian, it's like a lighter minor sound. If you go Phrygian, it's more of a Spanish sounding thing with the flat 2. And if you go Aeolian, it's more of a classical sound. So I hope that helps out a little bit. I know this is it's a very confusing topic, and there's some other things to watch online to kind of explain it. But I hope this kind of simplifies the situation for you, and you can kind of experiment with these. Sit down. My suggestion is sit down. Play a major 7th chord, and then practice playing 3 different scales over that. Treat it as a 1 chord, treat it as a 4 chord, treat it as a 5 chord. So if you're playing a G major, play the key of G major over it, you're going to get the Ionian sound. If you're playing it as the Lydian mode, now it's going to be the 4 chord, so you're going to play the key of D major over that to get the Lydian sound. If it's Mixolydian, it's going to be a 5 chord, so you're going to play the key of C major over it. That'll really get that sound embedded in your ear, and you'll understand the modes much more. Same thing with the minor modes. Same exact process. Play the chord, and then experiment treating it as a 2, 3, or 6. And that sound will get in your ears, and you're going to understand the modes. It'll become self-explanatory because of what it is. It's a sound, really more than an explanation. It's a sound that gets in your ear that will help you to understand it. I hope that helps. If you like any of our videos, please subscribe to our channel. You can check my band out at slightreturn.com. You can also check us out at musicnoises.com. And we'll see you next time on Music 301.